Bonjour, je suis en Paris. Of course, the only reason I came to Paris was to do a boat trip on the Canal. The trip started on the River Seine. We would travel upstream before joining the Saint-Martin Canal. The boat departed near the Musée d'Orsay, a museum which actually used to be a train station. Here's another museum that didn't start life as a museum. Yes, that's the Louvre, probably most famous for being home to the Mona Lisa. But the building started life as a palace. And then the French had a little Republican revolution, so that was the end of that. This is Île de la Cité, City Island, the largest of Paris's islands. It's home to a number of landmarks, the most famous being the Notre Dame. It was great to see all the reconstruction work taking place after the fire in 2019. They said the cathedral will reopen by the end of 2024. We're just coming up to the entrance now of the Saint-Martin Canal. The canal opened in 1825. Its construction was funded through a tax on wine. I read an article recently that said demand for wine in France has dropped by about 15%, so they're going to destroy a load of wine to keep prices up. The boat entered the lock that would take us from the river onto the canal. There are 9 locks on the canal, and according to the guide, they all rise the same amount as each other, which I thought was quite interesting. The Arsenal Basin is home to 180 boats, but as you can see from all of the empty berths, a lot of them were off on their summer holidays. The canal is 4.6 kilometres long, and almost half of it is covered by tunnels. At first I was a bit disappointed because I thought I wouldn't get to see much, but the relief it gave from the baking hot sun was amazing. And there was actually still plenty to see in the tunnels, like this church crypt. And the brickwork was just incredible. I love all the different boats here. When I was in Amsterdam, I didn't feel like there was very much variety, but this felt a lot more like the boats you see back home. One very cool thing about the tunnels, other than those skylights, is the street signs that correspond with the roads above ground that were built on top of the canal in the middle of the 19th century. This tunnel here is more modern. It's made from concrete, and it's the widest part of the canal where 2 boats can pass each other. We're going into the second lock now. From here, the locks are all pairs of staircase locks. That is, one lock opening directly into the next lock. There we go. The front lock gates are opening. We go into the next lock, and those gates then become the rear gates. These are the temple locks. I went through a temple lock on the Thames in my last video. As well as locks, the canal has 2 swing bridges. They're very close to each other. This is the first one. Both of the bridges are not allowed to be opened at the same time because there's a hospital very nearby and one bridge needs to be closed to allow ambulance access. We're at the next locks, or écluses. These are the Écluses de Récollet, named after a religious order. This lock's claim to fame is that it was the filming place for a famous classic French film, Hôtel du Nord. In the 1960s, there was a proposal to fill the canal and build a motorway in its place. Luckily, that never happened. In fact, today, many of the roads around the canal are car-free. The Mayor of Paris has a lot of green aspirations, including banning private cars from the centre of Paris and improving water quality in the Seine. The target is to have achieved all of these initiatives in time for Paris to host the 2024 Olympics. In fact, the opening ceremony will be held on the river and it will also host some of the swimming events. These locks are the Écluses de Mort, the death locks, because this is where the local gallows used to be. Earlier in the video I mentioned the Mona Lisa, but did you know in 1911 the painting was stolen by a man who was working in the Louvre? He hid the painting in his Paris apartment for 2 years, and that apartment is right here beside the locks. The canal is 3 meters deep and the maximum permitted boat draft is 2 meters due to sludge and other debris. The canal is dredged roughly every 10 to 15 years when all sorts of treasures are discovered at the bottom. The last tunnel was the widest point of the canal. This is the narrowest. There isn't space for a towpath here, so in the days before engine-powered boats there was a pulley system to help guide them through. These are the last 2 locks on the canal, the Écluse de la Villette. As we leave the Saint-Martin Canal, we join the Canal de l'Oc. The basin is the largest artificial lake in Paris. The canal is used for lots of pleasure purposes, like this swimming pool. Or you can hire an electric dayboat. According to our guide, most people who hire them can't drive properly, so I'd be fine. The Paris Canal network totals 130 kilometres, so this trip has really just scratched the surface. But it was brilliant to take a couple of hours out of a busy day, rest my feet and watch the world go by from the water. There's the junction with the Canal Saint-Denis, but that will have to wait for another time to be explored because I've reached the end of my journey. Thank you for joining me and I'll see you again very, very soon.